Former Democratic presidential candidate Tulsi Gabbard announced this morning that she has left the Democratic Party. Here's what she said when announcing her resignation.
I can no longer remain in today's Democratic Party that's under the complete control of an elitist cabal of warmongers who are driven by cowardly wokeness, who divide us by racializing every issue and stoking anti-white racism, who actively work to undermine our God-given freedoms that are enshrined in our Constitution, who are hostile to people of faith and spirituality, who demonize the police but protect criminals at the expense of law-abiding Americans, who believe in open borders, who weaponize the national security state to go after their political opponents, and above all, who are dragging us ever closer to nuclear war.
Those are strong words from a now former Democrat. She is also a former representative from Hawaii, and Gabbard dutifully endorsed now President Biden once she suspended her own campaign in 2020. But her family history may offer some insight for her departure. Her father, a longtime Hawaii state senator, began working in politics more than 30 years ago and in fact led the Defense of Marriage campaign in that state. Joining me now to discuss her departure from the Democratic Party and what it could mean is Ken Blackwell, Senior Fellow for Human Rights and Constitutional Governance here at Family Research Council. Ken, good to see you today.
It was always good to be with you, Joseph.
Well, first, what was your reaction when you heard the announcement that Tulsi Gabbard was leaving the Democratic Party?
Well, you know what? I wasn't surprised because what I've witnessed, along with every other American, is the radicalization of the Democratic Party. This is, speaking kindly, a big government socialist party that tries to drive God and faith out of the public square, advocates for the destruction of the nuclear family, and actually advances a notion of a nation without borders. And so anybody of any common sense and I think decency will find it real hard to stay with this party's doctrine. It's something that FRC has underscored now for more than a decade, and that is to take a special look at the distinction between the two-party platforms in our two-party system. There is a direct contrast, and I think more and more Americans are saying it's a time for choosing, and they're choosing decency and common sense and a philosophy or a doctrine that would actually preserve our constitutional republic.
Not only did she leave the Democratic Party, she encouraged others to do the same. And she also did not mince words in her explanation, which was, as we played portions of, very detailed. She described them as an elitist cabal of warmongers driven by cowardly wokeness who divide us by racializing every issue and stoke anti-white racism, actively work to undermine our God-given freedoms. Are you surprised by how strong her words were when announcing her departure?
Well, no, because I think that elite that she talks about has wasted no time demonizing her and criticizing her for those things that she stands for that are pretty common sense. Look, I don't think she's necessarily a movement conservative. But I think that she has the common sense to understand that life is precious and that she can no longer be affiliated with a party that says that abortion is okay right at the moment, up to the moment of birth. You know, I don't think she can stay in league with a party that talks about defunding the police and watch personal safety in neighborhood after neighborhood be jeopardized, and watch on television the beating of innocent civilians who are just minding their business, coming back home from work, going to their families, and they're being openly assaulted. And those who do the assaulting are treated more kindly by Democrat apologists than the victims that they have in fact beaten or murdered.
And she's done this in a very public way. She's been involved in public life and in politics for a long time now, even though she still is young in political years, for sure. Do you think this is part of a larger strategy for her?
Well, it could be, but I think it's an expression of what I consider to be a pushback, and that is that she can no longer be affiliated with a party that constantly marginalizes her human dignity and her value as a public force, as a public leader. And so again, as Ronald Reagan was fond of saying, it's not so much that she is leaving the Democrat Party. The Democrat Party has left her because it has now surrendered its soul to this party that would destroy the family, chase God and faith out of the public square, and have an open assault on the dignity of human life.
Ken, very quickly, last question. We're going to bring on Aaron Baer and talk about the Senate race in Ohio, but you're from Ohio. What's your quick snapshot of that race between J.D. Vance and Tim Ryan?
Oh, I tell you, Biden is sticking to Tim Ryan like flypaper. And I thought that JD did a good job last night of basically tying him to his record and to his affiliation with this regime that is right now in the White House, that is destroying our nation, not only its economy, but going after the soul of our nation.
Ken Blackwell, always good to be with you. Thanks for stopping by.
Good to be with you, sir.